of the pieces that you did here at the show that stands out is a picture of some yellow flowers. Can you tell us what class you did this for?
I did this for my advanced placement class, which is painting, and this was one of our first medias that we had to work with, which was watercolor.
This piece is special for you because of one of your family members. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
This is actually for my mother. She's been telling me, asking me, like, can you do something for my kitchen? And I'm like, okay, I will soon. And then I just thought this was the perfect opportunity since my teacher didn't limit us to, we could do whatever subject we wanted to. I'm like, let me do a watercolor of flowers for my mom.
I noticed it's a little bit of a mix of flowers. What flowers did you base this painting on?
There's a mix of blossoms, roses, little flower buds, and just little like daisies as well. They're all of the tint of yellow. That's what I was going for.
What was the most challenging feature about painting the flowers?
The most challenging one was the middle flower, the blossom, because that was the most meticulous one for me at the time. I wanted it to look as close to the blossom as possible, so I spent the most time on that one.
This piece has a little bit of an added visual texture with the rope. Could you tell us a little bit about how the rope got incorporated into the project?
The rope, I wanted to add a 3D effect. I didn't want it, because everybody was just doing watercolor on cold press. I'm like, let me be a little bit extra for my mother. So I thought about like, oh, the basket, let me just get something from Michael's and put the rope, and then I painted it, and yeah.
How does this piece make you feel when you look at it?
I think about the vibrance of life, because when you look at it, it just pops out. Like, they're very clear, like, tints of yellow, and whenever, like, basically like looking at the sun. Like, basically the color of light. That's what I think about. My mom's a very, like, happy, outstanding person who loves talking to people. And whenever I look at it, I always think about my mother and her personality.
Now, the piece that you did is a chameleon. Can you tell me the medium that you used for it?
I used watercolor.
I noticed on this picture there is a very interesting texture, especially for watercolor, kind of for his scales. Can you tell us a little bit about the scales?
So I took a square piece of screen and I would paint the area that I would want scaly, and then I would take the screen, put it on there, put some books on top, and I would let it sit for at least like 10 minutes so it can sit and dry like that. And I would take it all off and it would have that scaly effect.
On the chameleon, there's some white shading. Could you tell us how you did the white shading of the chameleon?
On the white parts, before I painted any of it, it's called rubber cement, and you just lay it on the areas where you want it to be completely untouched.
I noticed on here that the background, there's kind of an interesting texture to the background as well. Could you tell us how you accomplished that?
I applied black watercolor paint, and then as the paint was still wet, I took a little dropper and dropped individual pieces with the alcohol, and the chemical effect made the paint and the alcohol retract from each other, which made the paint not go in that area.
So you definitely like to include your pets in your projects?
I have a lot of pets, and I like lizards, and my cats are also around here, and I just like to incorporate them in what I love to do, and I love to create art and to create them somewhere in there.
Can you tell us a little bit about this piece? I noticed it's very stark except for the tree. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, with the background, I wanted it to be pretty desolate. And then for the leaves, I wanted it to be very vibrant so you can focus on the leaves more to draw out the picture.
What sort of feelings were you hoping to evoke with this piece, with the stark contrast between the colorful tree and the very desolate background?
But the feeling I wanted to go with, like, sort of like you see death, but then with the colorful leaves, it brings life into the picture. So I felt that was best to highlight.
What would you say were the biggest challenges that you had going into this piece?
The biggest challenges were definitely picking the right type of tree painting the tree exactly and the leaves, because I didn't really know if I wanted to be colorful or to have the background to be colorful.
Did you sketch this out first before you painted it or anything like that? What was the process that you used to do it?
And for me, I had to draw the moon first because the tree, I felt like that would have to spend the most time on it, so that's why I did the tree last.
What did you use to decide what colors to use for the tree?
Okay, for the tree, it's an interesting story. First, I wanted to go with just gray and white leaves, excuse me. And then for the leaves, I just decided, since I haven't used a lot of color in the painting exactly, like as a whole, I figured I might as well just add a bunch of color to it. I think the art show as a whole is very good because it allows people to express how they really feel and get that side of them that isn't shown in regular classes. And I think that it's nice to have my family and friends view my artwork.
The painting that you showed me is very interesting. Can you tell us what medium it's done in?
It is done in charcoal.
I noticed it has some unusual shading on it. There's kind of a greenish tone, and there's almost what I would say are some lizard attributes. Could you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, the lizard attributes were based off on comments from my friends. So it's an inside joke since I have lizard attributes. So that's what the lizard skin and tones were based off of, the scales, and the colors are really based off of green and black. So
Yeah, I noticed something too with the eyes is that your eyes in the painting are not symmetrical. Could you tell us some of the inspiration for that?
well, the main focus on the project was to be mainly black and white, and I wanted to be more standoutish and more abstract in a way. So I figured what's more different or weird or freaky in a way. So 2 different eye shapes would catch attention.
Can you tell us what the biggest challenge in this piece was?
The main challenge was to find the different ways to shade. It took a lot of shading and really trying to figure out the right shapes and erasing a lot of the mistakes, but then coming back to them. So that was really hard.
And a lot of the shading that you're talking about is in the skin tone, correct?
Yeah, in the skin tone, because I have a dark skin tone, so it was really hard to figure out where would shine the most or would be darker.
Now that you see this piece finished, what sort of emotions does this piece evoke for you?
For me, I see it as something just like a little wild, and then something that's a little outlandish and not normal, uncanny in a way, to get you out of your comfort zone.
One of the pieces you did in the show is a very colorful tree piece. Can you tell me a little bit about the assignment for the tree?
Well, that's actually a self-portrait. And so we basically had the theme to pick a tree that's most like yourself and paint it. And so it's honestly my favorite piece, and I love it dearly.
Now, it's very colorful. Can you tell me a little bit about the whole scene that people would see on this piece?
It's colorful because I'm a very bright and open person. And so when you see it, it's kind of like brings you to life, kind of. It's just like a bright day, and that's who I am, my personality.
Okay, and this is a specific type of tree that you've chosen to portray yourself as?
Yes, a cherry blossom tree.
What are the biggest challenges that you had in this piece?
Well, it was just very tedious, I would say, because there's a lot of yellow flowers on the bottom, and so I had to stipple all those, and it probably took about 5 hours just to do the yellow alone. And all the flowers on the cherry blossom tree, I had to outline 3-4 times in different pinks, so that was very, very long.
What sort of emotions do you feel when you look at this piece?
Well, it brings me a lot of joy because I like looking at myself, because even though it's not of myself, it's still myself because it's still a self-portrait. But it kind of because there's different meanings behind it, because it represents my family life as well, and that's not as great as my personality and such. So I kind of have mixed emotions when I see it.
Tell us about what art does for you as a person.
Well, I just always have been in love with creating things. Ever since I was about 3, I've been creating things, and so it's just a real stress reliever for me.
This piece is mostly all acrylic paint. I used some tissue in there and some magazine.
I noticed there's some different artistic periods included in your piece. I noticed a little impressionism, and I think even a little bit of pop art. Can you
Right.
tell us about that?
Yes, the main focus of the piece is where the pop art aspect comes from. That's the woman. It's more inspired of like comic book type, more of a romantic comic book era back in the day, as she's the main focus of the piece. And then on the left, I believe, is where it's the collage of a Van Gogh piece, and that's more impressionist. And then on the right is more of a collage, random, just acrylic and clumps of acrylic paint.
Now, to me, this looks almost like a dream state. Can you tell me if I'm right or about your thoughts on that?
Yes, that's pretty accurate. I was going for like a dream slash magical slash being overwhelmed, overall random piece, and that's pretty much what it was. It's weird though because this was actually more of a practice piece, so I didn't necessarily think to have a full story. It was just a little thought of, this would be cool.
What was the most challenging part about doing this piece?
Well, this was one of the first times I've worked with acrylic, so that was a new experience that I had to get used to.
What are your thoughts on getting a chance for your friends and your family to get to see the work of your art class and also your friends and fellow students?
I think it's really cool. I think it's important to showcase everyone's talent and showcase what TF South has to offer, and just to let other people appreciate what you've been spending your time on, and I just think it's really cool and important.
Now, one of the pieces that you've done at the show that stands out is a self-portrait. Can you tell us what medium you did it in?
It's a graphite pencil drawing with flowers and all that stuff.
We noticed it has kind of some depth to it because it's a couple different sort of layers to this one. Can you tell us a little bit about your inspiration for that?
I just didn't want it to be a flat drawing. I wanted something to make it pop out more. Since I did the flowers on the head, I wanted flowers on the drawing.
The other thing that I see that pops on this is that it is a graphite pencil drawing, but then you have the purple background.
I wanted to do something that would make the flowers pop out, so it was the complementary colors with the green in the hair, not in the hair, and the flowers, and then the purple in the background, since those colors complement each other.
The flowers that are mounted on the bottom of it, that's kind of an interesting feature too. Can you tell us what those are and where that inspiration came from?
It was all the flowers in the headband, and it just makes it pop. Since they got that little bit of color in it, it kind of stands out and makes it look finished.
What does art mean to you as a person? What kind of outlet is it?
Art is my life. I've been drawing since I was 4 or 5, and it's just always what I do. If I'm mad, I just draw something and calm me down. I just love drawing graphic design, painting, all of that. It's just what I do.
One of the pieces that you did at the TF South Art Show is of a piranha. Can you tell me what medium you used for this picture?
For the piranha piece, I used the color pencil.
This picture, it's very complex. Did you base it on a photograph, or do you actually have a piranha?
In my past life, I did have pet piranhas, but for the piece, I printed out a picture offline.
There's lots of colors in there, and how did you decide to choose the colors that you did, and what were some of the biggest challenges in creating this piece?
I chose the colors because with color pencil, you have to actually blend instead of like just attacking on like what you see in the picture. So it's like you have to start with like a light color like a cream and then work your way to blend it. So that's pretty much how the colors came about. But the most challenging part was actually when I was doing it, it wasn't coming out how I thought it was.
Okay, so how much time would you say you put into creating this piece?
It took me all of like maybe a week in a day.
What does art mean to you in your life?
Actually, art means a lot. That's what I'm going to college for.
Can you tell us what medium this piece is painted on?
It's painted on acrylic on canvas paper.
Can you tell us about the subject in the picture, the person that you painted?
Well, it's a self-portrait, but I used like different elements of like a superhero kind of, or like supernatural powers. And that's what inspired like the colors that I used, like for the blue skin and the purple eyes.
And I noticed he has a handkerchief, like a red handkerchief on him. Could you tell us what that is?
The red handkerchief is like a living organism. It can breathe and have its own thoughts, and it like wraps around his body like as a protector, and it gives him strength.
This piece it definitely has some fantasy, sort of comic book elements. Is that intentional then?
Yeah, I really like comic books and anime, so I was inspired to like use my ideas into the like self-portrait, because when at first the project we had to use like she said we could use our skin tones, my teacher, but I didn't want to use like the regular skin tones because I wanted to like stand out, and I used like what I thought was cool, and I just used blue skin.
What were the biggest challenges when you were painting this piece?
The biggest challenges for me was trying to get the paint to kind of steer in the right motion, because I would have to, each section we have to paint in sections. So one blue would be dark, one blue would be medium, and one blue would be lighter. And I would have to paint them like on different areas. Like the light blue, I would have to be really precise and try to get the blue in the right shape, or else it would like be sloppy and I'll have to redo the line work. I like symbolism. I feel like symbolism is a big part of art. When you can put symbols and like hidden meanings inside of an art piece, I feel that it can show a greater message. And that's what like I feel art is. It's like messages, but just like with the pictures.
Now, about how many pieces are at the Student Art Show, and how long does it take to set up?
Well, it actually takes about a week to set up, a couple of days to put the flats up.
This event features some awards. Can you tell me about that?
Well, we always have an artist who comes in and will jury the art based on the different classes that are taught. We have several advanced classes: drawing, painting, graphic design, digital photography, 3D sculpture and design, and of course our beginning class, Art Fundamentals.
What is the response that the parents and family have to the art show of the students participating in it?
It is absolutely phenomenal, overwhelming with when the parents come in and the family members come in and they get to see the work that their son or daughter has done. This is a piece of artwork that they will be able to put in a frame, that they will be commissioned possibly to do other artwork down the road for family members or for businesses, or if they go on into college in art. So it's a wonderful culmination of skill and talent that it's actually visible. I get to see how my students have grown as an artist. I see them sometimes for 4 years. They go through beginning classes and all the way through to being a senior. I get to help write their applications and letters of recommendation for college. But I mostly get to see them grow as an artist. And when I see that, then I know I've done my job.